Hi, this is Kent Butterworth, and I was a director and storyboard artist on the Mighty Mouse, New Adventures of Mighty Mouse.
And I'm Mike Kazaleh. I was one of the layout artists on the show.
I'm Tom Minton. I was the story editor and ended up doing storyboards and writing a lot of the episodes as well.
This is one of the first episodes.
Ralph wanted to introduce his character Scrappy, who is a pathos heart, that sort of thing, because he figured that next to Mighty Mouse he needed something to balance it out. So
this is the heart episode.
The heart episode, yeah.
I think that the director, we won't mention his name, but he didn't understand that this was supposed to be funny, and that the heart, that we were, all a bunch of very sarcastic, angry, mean-spirited kids who were working on this thing and didn't want to make something that was heartwarming. And
well, we weren't mainstream in those days.
We need mice. We need mice. Wow.
Anyway, this introduces Scrappy. These look really good now because they've gone back to the original negatives. They look really terrific. And he's looking for a home. He's trying to find a home. We established that. And he meets, eventually, Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse is coming up right about here. I happen to have in front of me the original voice log for Mighty Mouse, which I actually had in my garage, oddly enough. This episode was recorded April 29th, 1987 at Buzzy's in Hollywood, which we would never know if this didn't happen to be here. Scrappy ended up being in both seasons, and in one episode we actually killed him off. And then Jim wrote that other one.
Yeah, he wasn't in the second season much.
He was in a little bit, yeah.
Well, I think we put him on trial. Didn't we put him on trial?
And he was murdered. It looked like Mighty Mouse did it. And Jim Reardon always said it. I really have a great calling I missed. I could have been a trial prosecutor because a pretty good case he built against him.
Well, it was a great scene where we gave him a crab body.
Yeah, that was the ending of it. I wanted to have it being all a dream, but then he had a body of a crab. And CBS then said you can't alter a character permanently at the end of a picture, forgetting what had happened at the end of Littlest Tramp when they blow up. And so we changed it.
These are like the Dead End Kids here.
Yeah, I think they're called Mo, Bub, and Frawley. And originally they were called Frank, Dean, and Sammy, but we changed their names. This is years before the Brothers Grunt, years before Danny Antonucci actually did a series with those names. Peter Lorre actually is a voice, which later, there he is.
Became famous, yeah.
Yeah, later.
Beat it, you little squite.
Bill Frawley, who was probably named after Frawley, also used to play a character called Bub on the original My Three Sons show.
Yeah, that was old even then, but it's amazing.
Mighty Mouse is
I don't know who laid this out. Do you know who laid this out?
No. This was Bruce's team.
Very
obviously. John had the A team. Bruce had the the C team.
Not only that, but this team, whoever animated this overseas, looks like a different group than the others.
I think also the timing is very flat on this. There's no punch to it. Again, I think this whole thing was supposed to be done with a lot of sarcasm and anger and meanness.
Well,
but it's fake sincerity, which doesn't really come across.
Now you see that shack up there on the hill? That's
it looks a lot like a Filmation cartoon. John, you had a story about Judy Price. This might be a good time for that story.
Okay, well, Judy Price was the buyer for CBS. She's the person you went to pitch shows, and she would buy them, give you a green light. Very important. She had been at ABC before that, but at the time we did Mighty Mouse, she was at CBS. And you didn't get a show on the air unless Judy bought it. That's the way it was. This was probably the very first footage to come back. It was a rough cut. And Judy hadn't seen any of the footage yet. And she came to see it one day. I know this because my office was right across from the film editor's office, and Ralph kept firing film editors. We had like one a week. And she came in and saw this one, and she was really mad. She's angry at Ralph. It looks great. The quality it's too good. She was complaining the quality was so good it made other things on her schedule at the time look horrible by comparison. And this isn't even one of our better shows. And I wouldn't have believed that if I hadn't heard it. Then Ralph told me later, "Can you believe that? She actually castigated me for making a show that's too good. What is the world coming to?" Well, little did he know the world was coming to this. Anyway, 2009. Look at that, mistaken of spelling. It should be Chester P. Cheeser. The C is an O there. That's
Thanks,
what happened.
Weasel.
Now that voice there
That's Wendell.
That's Wendell.
That does sound like Wendell, yeah.
It's a pickup line because the actual voice of this character was Roger Bumpus. And that must have been a pickup that we didn't have.
So sad. Don't you know?
Yeah, a lot of the early episodes, Wendell also narrated.
Yes. He had a great voice for narration, and in one of the Bag Mouse, he did a character.
He is on screen as him playing himself.
But nobody can do his laugh.
I don't think he realized he was playing himself. I don't think I told him he was playing himself, but he didn't find out he was playing himself until later.
I think by now he knows, but nobody can do the voice that thing he does with the laugh. It's amazing, the dimension it has. It rattles windows. It's astounding.
Weight as good carnival workers. If you don't.
Yeah, I think we brought that character back a couple of times.
It was good. Also, I remember in the writing of this one that Ralph loved Pinocchio, and he got a lot of Pinocchio into this. A lot of ideas, things that
Yeah, well, this is obviously
Stromboli,
Stromboli, right?
Mm.
If Mighty Mouse were here.
Sure, kid, but Mighty Mouse.
And the funny thing is, the rap on this, when it was being made, was that the series was that you're not putting Mighty Mouse in the episodes enough. You're cutting away to Bat to Petey Page or whatever, and so they do an episode with pathos, and Mighty Mouse isn't in that either. It's amazing.
And this was the first one that went into production.
Yeah, it was. That's true.
Well, this is we were talking about this earlier. That the great thing about Mighty Mouse is that we had no compunction about making fun of him. If we ever had to make cartoons using Bugs Bunny, there's no way we would diss Bugs Bunny the way we diss Mighty Mouse.
No, this wasn't the first one in production. Meow was the first one
you're right.
in production.
Oh, right.
That's true. That came back with some, There's still some retakes here that were never fixed, but that's okay. There's one glaring one which comes up later, and one that I had to draw because there was nobody left in the studio. It's astounding that something 22 years ago that the negatives haven't faded. The color hasn't faded a bit. It still looks remarkably good.
They look great. They look great. I don't know if they cleaned them up. I remember we have trouble with negative scratches. You'll occasionally see little white hits once in a while. The black ones would be, we actually used cells. This is before computers.
Oh, yeah, a long time
And
ago.
there was I think the technical word for it was schmutz that would wind up on the cells, and it would come up occasionally. That's the black stuff.
Yeah, there are
the white ones are actually scratches in the negative, which means that there would be some dust in the camera while it's being taken.
These are so clear that there's actually a couple of scenes you can see a shutter problem, a little bit of a shutter variance. They're actually talking about technical things because this cartoon is so boring. But it's true. You'll see that coming up. Dana Hill, the late Dana Hill, was the voice of Scrappy, and she had a great sort of a kid's voice and sincere. She had a lot of different things. Patrick Penny was Mighty Mouse and Mike Mouse. The three mice, Mo, Frawley, and Bub. There was Roger Bumpus, and Patrick Penny did Frawley, and Bumpus did Mo. Charlie Adler did Old Man Weasel.
Look hungry.
That's a nice drawing there, actually. Occasionally you see a nice drawing.
He's drawn pretty well here, this Chester. That's not bad.
We needed some, I think there was a network request. Judy Price at CBS wanted some heart. And
they wanted heart.
And an identification figure.
Yeah, we weren't even known in those days as people who did shows. We were just people who worked. Ralph was known as having done all these X-rated pictures. And
right.
I think
we were a bunch of kids that nobody heard of.
But they were afraid
who we were yet.
Based on what Ralph had done in the past with the X-rated pictures. He might do something maybe inappropriate. And they forget that he'd done a lot of Terrytoons, and kids' cartoons and New Rochelle. And he knew exactly
He'd actually animated Mighty Mouse, I think, at one point.
He's the only person pretty much in the middle generation there who worked on the old stuff and the new stuff. The only thing he avoided was the Filmation Mighty Mouse.
But don't you go calling your super friends just any old time.
Judy really liked Ralph.
And that helped a great deal.
She was in love with Ralph because Ralph was this famous filmmaker.
Well, partly. And also, I don't know, they liked yelling. They both yelled at each other. And Ralph came back from a meeting one time, and they were screaming about something. And she had an assistant with her who was like having a coronary because he couldn't believe they were screaming in this restaurant. And Ralph said, "She's wonderful. And she has this tiny fist, and she pounds on the table, and she screams as loud as I do." He thought it was great. I wish that was on tape because we have YouTube now, but nobody taped it. That would have been a wonderful thing to see, just to behold.
Nearly as lifelike as the ones in your puppet show.
What?
I have one thing to say about what Ralph told me why the network wasn't bothering him was simple. Did you ever notice nobody will get near a dog with rabies?
Oh, very good. Very good.
I tell you about working against me?
No, at the time, a lot of the studios were doing as little work as possible.
Kind of like today.
Yeah, like today. They do storyboards at some studios. They would also do X sheets, but...
Look at that. Wrong mice. They aren't the mice that are in the picture.
Someone wasn't paying attention to the model sheets. Right?
Now we're going to see a scene that I had to draw here because they didn't have...
That's probably the best drawn scene in the picture.
Well, they forgot about the moment where he actually saves the day, and it wasn't in here. So they had to actually pay for a retake, and Ralph hated the idea of having to do a scene that we forgot to do, but you're going to see it here. It's very quick, and it's a layout scene I had to draw on right after this. Here we go. Right here, that one, when he catches the thing, because that wasn't in there, and it's like, that's a major story point.
I know I storyboarded it, because you
wasn't
needed
animated.
that shot, but I think
It wasn't
decided
animated.
that
It was
he
cut. It was cut.
maybe didn't need it.
It was cut. I don't know why it was cut, but it was cut.
Well,
But anyway, it was
I guess I deserve that.
put back in for a few dollars. Here we
Now,
go.
this is the very sarcastic and, in spite of the direction, I think it still comes off the blatant insincerity here.
He is your pal.
Chester saying, "Well, I deserve that. That makes it okay." I think.
Well,
isn't that how we got away with the fact?
yeah,
Otherwise,
but-
BS&P would have said,
Well-
"You can't have him punch him in the nose." Like, well, he says he deserves it.
all of our
It's a worthy punishment, so therefore it's okay.
But all of our villains repented in the first season. The last line of this was supposed to be, "I'm going to tear this joint down and put up a church." And we thought that was hilarious. And no way could you get away with even because it was like, so it's bingo parlor.
So at least we end with a sarcastic note. Thank
Sort of.
goodness.
Now we have the end credits, which were, look at that. They actually varied these for each episode, which is amazing. They would go to that money. What do we have here?
This was all done.
And directors is a gang credit. Writers is a gang credit.
Everybody,
Yes.
whether you worked on it or not.
Mhm.
Now, I think these are actually the artists that worked on it. I didn't know Lynn Naylor worked on Bat Bat.
No, they were both, both shorts are all piled into this one thing. Yeah.
I was saying I didn't see any Lynn Naylor's
No, not in that one.
Not on that one, no, because
layouts. She
87.
was too busy working on Bat Bat.